Let's move on to our next session, which will be a discussion on content and monetization, challenges and opportunities. In conversation with Pinakin Thakkar, CEO, Nirvana Digital, joined by Saket Jha Saurabh, Director, Entertainment and Music Partnerships, Facebook India, Prasoon Garg, General Manager and Business Controller, Applause Entertainment, Divya Dixit, SVP, Revenue and Marketing, ALTBalaji, Sujata Dwibedy, Group Trading Director, Amplify India, Dentsu, Narayan, Chief Marketing Officer, PaisaBazaar.com. Over to you, Pinakin, sir.
Hi, everyone. Lots of familiar faces. Okay, awesome. So should we just do a quick round of intros since, even though everyone's kind of familiar with each other?
Sure. So, hi, I'm Sujata, and I lead the media buying and trading for all the Dentsu agencies in the network.
Awesome.
Hi, Prasoon Garg here. I work with Applause Entertainment and handle business operations and commercials in the company.
Everyone, I'm Narayan, and I head the marketing for PaisaBazaar, which is part of the PB FinTech group.
Okay.
Hi, Pinakin. Good to see you. Hi, everyone. My name is Saket. I work at Facebook and Instagram in entertainment and music.
Awesome. Okay, so what we can do is we can just do like a round robin kind of situation where we can start off with questions and then everyone can go around answering that. Does that work for you guys?
Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome. Okay. OTT, in terms of viability. In my opinion, OTT is the future. There are about 400 OTT originals in India now. There are 100 million OTT subs in India right now. Should zoom to about 224 million by 2024. Massive growth potential. $1.6 billion in terms of revenue, growing to maybe 4.5 by 2026. No questions, OTT is here to stay. But Prasoon, how does the commissioning model work, and what points do you guys generally tick it before greenlighting something?
I think commissioning model per se is a sort of very simple model in a structure. So basically, if you have any great idea, you can be a writer, you can be director, you can be a production company who has worked with the group of writers that develop the idea. You can pitch the ideas to us. More developed the idea, the better it is for us, because we get more material to evaluate the idea on. The way we have structured it in our company, at least, is that we have a commissioning team who sort of acts as the first filter for us to evaluate any idea. We see, in terms of the idea, we see an idea in terms of how we are doing already, what kind of content we are doing already, what kind of content we are looking to do at that point. Would we want to be associated with that idea for next 2-3 years of our life, because that's what it takes. That's the time it takes for that idea to finally come to the screen. Once we have sort of done that, discussed all that, it moves to a content team and sort of we become part of active development of that idea. We generally like to get associated at an initial stage where you have probably a story, a Bible in place, and we then get on from there and work with you to develop, flesh out the idea, get into casting. So basically, from the initial writing stage to final execution and putting it out to a platform. In terms of model for the producer, so the key elements we look for is that in the beginning or at some stage we should have writers in place. We should have a showrunner, directors in place, and a strong production company who can sort of work with us and execute the idea.
Awesome. Okay. Sujata, what do you think in terms of viability?
So look, we work on the money bit, right? So when it comes to OTT, where is it that the monetization really happens from? In India or anywhere, it's the AVOD and the SVOD model. And if you were to see, unlike other countries, in India, 60% of the revenue still comes from AVOD. And the subscription rates have gone up in the last 2 years because of the pandemic and whatever happened. But we're still far from really making profit. Content consumption has surged, yes. Video consumption has really increased, yes. But is it same with the revenues. I think the content acquisition cost is too high, and to really break even is difficult. So there are many ways in which we could monetize. We are in a very nascent stage in India even now when it comes to content monetization. We're still in the nascent stage when it comes to using tech stack like technology, AI, and all usage. When it comes to even basic things like operations, technology, and things like that. So there are many things that we still are far away, and we're working towards it. So monetization can be excellent. We are talking about a 2.93 billion in 2025. That kind of revenue, but that can even go up if we make it right.
Awesome. Hi Divya, welcome to the panel. You'll have to unmute.
Hi.
Hi. So we were just talking about viability and OTT as a market, how viable it is. Any inputs?
Okay. So let me begin by saying that it's OTT as a market, how viable it is a question which will come in multi-layers, because there are multiple revenue models that are emerging in OTT, right? So we started by being a SVOD platform. There are models available in the market which are a combination of AVOD, SVOD, and then there are layers of co-production, integration, and brand integration, platform integration that are emerging right now, right? So for me to say that OTT as a market, is it viable or not? I think it's too soon, because everybody is experimenting right now. Is it going to be the future? For sure, because it's consumer convenience, right? Is it going to be the main platform for entertainment? Yes, for sure, as more and more people cut costs, right? How do you make it viable for the business? How you work for your particular platform in terms of a combination of AVOD, SVOD, various co-production models, various integration models, various ISP telco partnerships, that all remains to be seen whether your platform becomes viable or not, right? So there is no one size fits all approach here, which I can answer with, that whether OTT is viable or not. Is it the future? Yes, I can answer that for sure.
Awesome. Saket, any inputs?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I do agree with the great extent. I think the market is definitely viable. Which players will continue to be viable is the question, right? So look, if you look at consumption or consumer behavior, Pinakin, over the last 18 months, I think now it's a truism that direct consumer response online is now a reality, right? You look at D2C e-commerce brands or OTT, both are, to me, reflection of the same instinct, which is that a supplier of value is going directly to the consumer. So I think the OTT space is going to explode and continue to grow. Now, some players will find that magic potion where their cost structures and their revenue models are aligned, and they can invest to a certain point and then they have profitability. Some players may not, because they may either overbet in certain areas. You can see within the OTT ecosystem, nuances have started to come in, right? There are players who are focusing on a certain kind of content, or there are players who are focusing on a certain business model. It's happening globally as well. We just heard some price changes in the market, which again will sort of infuse a whole new degree of competition. So I think the space is definitely going to go. And I think the lines are blurring. Let me put it, let me close by saying that I think for most large IP owners, and we meet and talk to them all the time, given what we do at Facebook and Instagram, they're not seeing themselves as OTT, broadcaster, radio, print. They're seeing themselves as IP owners and content creators. And then you serve wherever possible and you serve profitably. So I think that landscape of a blurred landscape is very much here.
Awesome. So that actually kind of brings me to my next question. What are the kind of evolving trends that we're seeing, whether it's in all forms of digital entertainment? Like you said, people think of themselves as creators and they'll just serve at the right platform when possible. So, the Deloitte Industry Insight report says that the next wave of disruption may lie with Gen Z, who prefer to play video games, stream music, engage on social media, rather than just watch TV or movies. I mean, in my opinion, since India is just entering the space, and like all you guys agree, it's quite nascent yet. There is enough room for growth even from the OTT angle, but even if Gen Z is not fully captured. So maybe for Sujata and Sai over here, are brands more willing to spend on digital initiatives on such platforms? What kind of innovations are brands looking at, or what kind of messaging are they looking at?
So hi everyone. So I think as a marketer, what I really feel is that the entire, as everyone has shared, the entire OTT space is exploding, and somehow we feel that there is an audience. There is a shift in audience. There's a shift in a consumer behavior in terms of viewing pattern, and also in terms of the content consumption pattern. And you know, and from usually from a marketer's point of view, we look at the traditional way of spending money on media, but that myth has broken over the past 2 years since pandemic. So what I feel is that there is a readily available audience who is consuming an alternate kind of content, be it video games, be it new content on any of the platforms, and we are always we are ready to and as a marketer, I really want to tap onto that audience. So as you guys have a lot of you have shared here that there are still a lot of platforms where the ease of advertising is not available as yet. So what as a marketer we end up doing is that we end up going to Facebook or YouTube, where we kind of end up advertising most of our video content, wherever video content is available. We end up advertising there. I'll give you an example. Like for example, Sujata spoke about cutting the cord. So that's where what we've seen is that while people are cutting the cord, but consumption on television has not reduced. When I say television, this is connected TV. The CTV consumption is increased. So where do we tap the CTV audience? Is largely consumers consuming content on YouTube, on TV, or live sports being watched on TV but on a OTT platform. So these are the players. These are places we are trying to catch this audience. But I still feel that platforms like Facebook and YouTube have still been able to capture this audience in terms of advertising. But as a marketer, I still feel that there are other platforms still need to pick up the game in terms of giving more options for advertisers.
Interesting. So Divya, what do you think? What are the trends that we can look forward to in 2022? I think Divya's frozen. Okay, till she comes back. So since we're talking about evolving digital trends, Saket, social content and social commerce, what kind of blend, what is the perfect audience? How do they connect? How do they talk to each other?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, look, just to give you context, I think in the last 18 months, we've been privileged to have witnessed one of the biggest content shifts in my mind, which is really this focus on short form video, right? There is a report, I think Bain just did a report, 200 million Indians have sort of gone and used short form video, and that number is likely to go up to 600 million. And we are very excited because we've sort of been a big, catalyst of that change. We are seeing that live. There are more than 6 million reels being done on Instagram every day. And those, so the adoption of short form video has been really in my mind, it heralds the shift, both in terms of demographics as well as consumption pattern, right? And what we've also seen is a huge amount of adoption by brands in terms of not just their paid marketing, which is what I think Sai was referring to. And of course, we've always focused as platforms, we've always focused on full funnel solutions, right? We always try and go to our brand partners with outcome-based solutions. It's not just about the views and the engagement. It's eventually about what marketing objective you want to solve for. And we are seeing, we are very glad that we are seeing brands adopt short form video as well. So the thing is, I think the savvier brands have understood that the consumer is moving to an environment where they do want a certain kind of consumption experience, which may be a minute or lower. And at the same time, you also see the growth of OTT. So it's interesting where, different content, you're seeing different courses for different horses. And I think for us, we've been very lucky that we've been at a sort of intersection of this consumption shift, as well as, the shift in terms of monetization. And commerce will be the next big thing. Look, Pinakin, in all fairness, the fact is with paid partnerships on Instagram and branded content handshakes, commerce has been on our platform for a while, right? Creators and influencers, including companies such as yours, have always led and created commerce opportunities. I think our goal is, how do we ease friction in that process? And how do we bring some products and features so that creators can monetize more seamlessly, whether it's affiliate marketing with brands, or it's doing paid partnerships, or it's frankly at some point having your own shop on Instagram and sort of retailing directly merchandise. So I think we are fully wedded to the commerce opportunity, but I think our overall philosophy is, how do we ease friction and make monetization more comprehensive? And we're seeing brands jump onto that and build really powerful organic brand presence on our platforms, which is far more than the advertiser relationship, which we of course value a lot and has been growing to.
So I mean, just to get this back, Prasoon and Divya, like for example, if someone is watching a show and they like a particular piece of clothing, or they like an artifact from the show, do you think that maybe using YouTube and Facebook and other platforms, people might be able to actually purchase those articles? You think that that'll happen in the next coming year or so?
So we all know that video commerce is the biggest thing, or rather the socio commerce is the biggest thing, which is going to hit us next, right? Globally, it's already happening. India is gearing up for it. Meeshos and Simpsons of the world did through, a reseller platform, Trell, and now we've recently heard about Moj and, Flipkart coming together to look at the video commerce piece, right? I have been internally vocalizing and talking about the fact that how we believe that, it's another revenue layer that we can add on by integrating video commerce within our platform on all our shows. I'm extremely excited about it. I also think the fact that it also contributes to influencer marketing coming together with commerce, it's going to be the next big thing. And if you look at the startup environment right now, you would see so many startups raising funds and seed funding and Series A and B funding at the back of it. So yes, I'm absolutely convinced that this is going to be the best thing, because if you look at the consumer insight, it gives people inspirational call to look at somebody they admire and to be able to buy or wear or utilize something, that someone that they admire or someone that they believe or someone that they trust is using. It is the next best thing.
Interesting.
I think I agree.
Yeah,
I think I agree with Divya. I mean, we all are talking about and sort of trying to figure out ways to integrate brands in the in content as well. The way we see it, I think we are very excited about this opportunity that, as we move or as more audiences move toward digital, there's an opportunity to create different type of content. So while we are creating, premium shows for OTT platforms, as Saket was saying, there's incredible opportunity to create short form. YouTube has already been doing a lot of brand integration. So I think it also depends on the type of content. Would you want to integrate brand while watching Narcos and sort of go event shop? Probably not. But there are different type of content forms, right? And we should all focus on, and we should really, I mean, the audience is pretty large and there are large niches of audience available. So sometimes you're watching, and peacefully, and we want to just focus on the piece of content and watch that. And while, there you can create other different type of engaging content, which, you work with the brands and sort of create in that manner, where, audiences, so you're able to sort of get the content free to audience and able to monetize through the brand, like how the traditional medias have done in the past. So it's really the kind of content we sort of, so we need to see the content, the type of content we're developing, and also the technology. I think we all need to figure out the technology which will make it possible and make it seamless which makes the experience seamless for the viewers.
Sorry, but I would like to add on to this. Like, I've been speaking to a lot of founders of social commerce, and the kind of technology and the tech stacks and the front end experience that they're creating, it's going to be absolutely non-inclusive, right? Because till you really are immersed in a piece of content and you're really convinced about that, the content that surrounds that commerce, you're not going to really buy into it, right? So in a way, it's a much more evolved form of advertising, right? The reason why it exists is for commerce, right? So yes, there are actually a lot of non-intrusive ways which are being developed right now to sell the products. And I really, really think this is going to be the next big thing. Think about small towns. I keep saying India is not Bombay.
I agree. I agree.
About small towns, sitting at home, an actress who's wearing this, dress, sitting at home, a tier 3 girl can order it and get it done, wear it, try it, get it at home. It's a big high for them, right? I think really brands need to invest in this.
There's another angle to this, one is, of course, like Divya rightly said, the tier 2, tier 3 towns. There are these Gen Z people who are completely hooked on to social commerce. They prefer buying it,
Right.
from these platforms because, things which are not available on the regular retail space are available here. Also from the, supplier side or the vendor side, they don't need a platform, right? They can come to the social space and they can sell. They don't need to have a full setup of e-commerce retail. They can just
True.
have link up with the social platform, and it gets very easy for them to kind of get these youngsters hooked onto their platforms, right? And it's across age groups, not only Gen Z, even older people, they find it pretty convenient coming to social platform. And more than a quarter of Indians are on social platforms, some platform or the other, constantly.
Interesting. So, I mean, now since, Sai was also mentioning earlier, the spends pattern has kind of changed, pre-pandemic, post-pandemic. For me, the way that I see it, I mean, what I'm trying to bring about is what's the scenario now and next? What was the pandemic challenge and what would happen after this, right? So for existing content, the pandemic has been a boon. I'm sure most of you all agree. Looking at data from Nirvana itself, we saw 100% rise in views and watch time. On YouTube alone, we served around 10 billion monthly views and 28 billion monthly minutes to a subscriber base of north of 250 million. So, I mean, that's the highest we've seen in the history of the company. For new content, the pandemic has been a challenge in terms of production. Production has stalled a little bit. Delays have happened. This may lead to like an increased demand in productions, which could have like a high return for production companies. But what are the challenges that you guys faced during the pandemic, and let's just get both sides of the story during the pandemic. Prasoon, you want to start?
So I think from content creators' point of view, as you rightly said, I think the biggest challenge was that physical productions were stopped. Many of those productions were stopped midway. Many were planned sort of to start and we couldn't start at the time. And that sort of leads to many other complications, because in the current world where there's so much demand of content, there's so much content is being created. So all of your talent is also busy, right? So everyone has sort of their schedules and everything booked for the year or probably 2-3 years, right? So when you sort of are not able to produce and finish that piece of content, so it's a spiraling effect across your content calendar for the next 1-2 years, and you try and manage that. Apart from that, the pandemic, I think we were lucky enough at Applause that we had finished so many shows before the pandemic hit us in 2020. And with the help of technology and many sort of the solutions like Frame.io available with us, we were able to finish post-production for many of the shows and sort of had about 12 to 13 releases during the year. And also it sort of helps us evolve, become a little bit more evolved in terms of how we sort of function. So now through Zoom calls, through different softwares and technologies, we are able to operate remotely, work with engage with the writers and directors more. So maybe realize for many of the things they don't need to really come to office, and we can have more frequent meetings and more frequent discussions online and do all that. So it has helped us in sort of writing and development process and sort of, however, in terms of production, I mean, the physical productions have been the biggest challenge, and sort of we hope that we don't face this lockdown again and sort of continues to work smoothly from here onwards.
Awesome. Sakit, did you see more creators coming on board during the lockdown? What's your take on this?
I think, Pinakin, we've seen just because of the sheer scale, I think we are fortunate to have in India. We have more than 400 million users on our platforms every month. So I think we are able to see a lot of these trends in various different ways. And I can perhaps talk to you about 3 or 4 of them. I think one is we just finished a major study with the Boston Consulting Group on shifts. Exactly your question, right? What has changed?
Yeah.
And I think what we've seen is that digital adoption, specifically online shopping, has perhaps accelerated by 2 to 3 years because of the pandemic, right? You see a lot more. We've seen 30% growth in digitally influenced purchases, to the extent that 7 out of 10 mobile phone buyers today actually do it, start their journey on digital and close it on digital. So there is obviously a huge amount of shift in consumer preference for digital, both as a medium of consumption, but also as a medium of consumer influence, right? Purchase influence in commerce. The growth in video, you mentioned it, the growth in watch time, we are seeing it across all our platforms. I think 80% of all data now is video in India. So obviously there's been a huge shift since 2016 of, once the telcos got in, but then I think the pandemic led to a consumer response as well. So one was the infrastructure being ready, but the other was the consumer adopting it. Short form video I spoke to you about, we are seeing massive growth, 6 million reels a day. And we've seen like a 12 times growth in time spent on short form video. So again, on the consumption side, short form video has been another big shift. And on the creator monetization piece, which is again something that we take great heart from, we've seen a 35% year-on-year growth in terms of creators and publishers monetizing on Facebook, right? So I think structurally, if you look at the 3 parts of the pyramid, the consumption side, the supply side, and of course the commerce side, we've seen huge growth on all 3 fronts, both in terms of adoption as well as in terms of width, right? You see our partners, some of the best creators, influencers, media companies, all coming to our platforms with various objectives and sort of looking at the entire palette of what they can do, right? So, and increasingly, we are seeing ourselves being seen as an and to media companies that have OTT businesses. So we're a great partner. We're helping them grow their users and super fandom, and at the same time also create a long tail for their IPs. So I think there is a lot of value creation that has now started to begin. People have started to reimagine their business models because the consumption change is very, very fundamental. So yeah, I think these would be some of the big changes that we have witnessed after the pandemic.
Awesome. What about in terms of size, Sujata, you guys were saying spends there's been a change pre-pandemic, post-pandemic. Could you give us a little?
Sure, I can take that. The AdX numbers, of course, fell. So, if the consumer sentiments are low, the advertisers will not spend. So, the spends definitely went down. But the only media which still saw double-digit growth was digital in 2020 and 2021. So, digital has been growing phenomenally. And within digital, there are multiple things that happened. While, we can talk about voice, etc., e-commerce, etc. But then we also saw from the advertisers is that came back to us looking at integrations, IP creations, branded content, because they did not want to directly put some advertising in front of the face of the consumers. They wanted it to be, they wanted to be associated with things. So we saw a lot of content extensions which we had not seen earlier. Even content extensions happened, IPs happened, moment happened. So the new ways of advertising started happening around pandemic, which was not as much, and from the standard regular clients. So it was interesting. And last year we saw a huge comeback during the festivities. This year it has been phenomenal. I mean, we've already doing very well, and we've seen most of the advertisers coming back, other than travel and tourism, who are kind of coming. So the Indian sentiments is such that while they will lie low during something which is negative, but during the festives, they come back with the bang. So advertising is almost back in track. We are almost close to 19 levels now, which had gone behind a lot.
Interesting. Automobile sector, are they back?
Almost, they're coming back. Yes. Right now, there's an issue with the chip, etc. And but they are coming back. The thing is, the lapse that is happening in certain categories has been kind of taken care of by the e-commerce categories, the edutechs and the fintechs and the pharmacy techs, pharma techs, as we would call it. Those guys have kind of made up very well. So the numbers have still grown.
Right.
Are you in the market to sell or buy a car, Pinakin? Very specifically,
Neither.
auto only.
Yeah, auto. Yeah.
I just because I keep observing what kind of ads are playing across platforms, and generally I would expect at least a couple of automotive brands to go ahead and advertise, and I've not been seeing too many of them. Maybe it was just they are playing and maybe they weren't targeted to me at that point, which is why I was very specific. It's not for me personally.
The luxury cars are not advertising as much. It is the mid-level cars are advertising. You should see the print ads. They're still happening because people want to now travel with their own personal cars. So the smaller cars and the mid-level cars are selling pretty much.
Sai, any inputs?
I think, to be honest, I'm very, very happy with the growth of OTT and the audience moving to digital only and moving towards connected TV. The reason is that traditionally the challenges that we faced, I faced as a marketer in traditional TV and traditional media is while you spend and you move brand metrics and mind metrics, you have very less control on targeting. While there is a very broad level of targeting that one can do, but there is very less control on targeting. And also the amount of the kind of monies that you commit to a certain campaign duration, which are huge. And once you commit that money, and then it's gone. You have to wait and just pray. But whereas the advent of digital video, the rise of OTTs and rise of digital video content, what does is it gives the power in the hands of the marketers. For example, that because the consumer is also so dynamic these days. Someone is the segmentation of consumers is becoming way varied than and too much than what it was earlier. So I can target only a CTV audience. I can target do a separate campaign for a non-CTV audience. I can just pick up say a small 10 city market or 4 city market and just do a different communication there. So there is, and also I can plug and play whenever I want. I feel that some piece of communication is not working. I might want to pause it. I want to play it. So the power rests with us. And also we are going where the consumer is and giving the consumer what he wants. So this is a very, very exciting space. It still needs to mature, is what I feel. Like for example, my request, there are a lot of content creators and big production houses here that my only request is that we work very closely with the Facebook team and with the Google team, wherein there is a end-to-end solution provided to a brand. Like for example, if you want a reach-led campaign or if you want a performance-led campaign, whatever you want, there's a complete package given to us. So if other platforms also start thinking in that direction, how do we work closely with the brands? That might really help their cause and our cause.
I have a point here to make. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sure.
Facebook and Google. So you have to remember that OTT platforms are very targeted in their audience, right? So when we launch, especially the SVOD space, when we launch a particular show, we're asking the consumer firsthand to pay the money to be able to log in and watch the show, right? And then there is the AVOD side of the platform, which behaves a little more like probably the open web, which is the Google and Facebooks of the world, right? Where you can probably only advertise or do your pre-rolls or mid-rolls or inserts. Whereas when you work with your OTT platform, there are multiple other opportunities also available, which I actually suggest and recommend to brands to explore, right? And this I'm saying only from another option point of view. There are beautiful things called brand integrations. When you do in shows, you're going to be available on the shelf for years and years and years, right? It's not an ad which is seen for 10 seconds, 15 seconds, 30 seconds and gone, right? And it's there. Whoever sees, and all the products have a huge shelf life in digital space. It's not a television show, 1+2, right? So I actually tell the brands that if you're going to do a campaign, please do consider brand integration as an integral piece of the same. Because as India grows, India today is what? 45% digitized, 55% digitized. There's a huge scope out there as India is growing in population and digitization. And for all of them, all the libraries are going to be new libraries, the new people who keep coming on the platform, right? So there's a huge scope for your brand to be available for years and years and years, provided you guys look at a good media mix on an OTT platform and not just advertising, 5, 10, 15. That's my recommendation.
Fair point. Fair point. But while everyone wants to explore this, but every time when you launch a campaign, there is not necessary that there will be a content which will sync with what the brand also wants to say. So it might happen, but obviously, one needs to keep thinking of how do we integrate.
If I could just...
It is a touch and go, right? However, there are multiple platforms now launching multiple originals. I would say, I've worked in broadcast and then I've come to OTT. Today, the OTT war that I see, I'm reminiscent of my days in the GEC wars, right? Today, it's the OTT platforms, especially the originals, that have taken center stage. So even if you can't integrate your brand in it, even if you do surround marketing with them, and that surround marketing also stays on their platform and on their social media handles for long, right? So there are multiple opportunities. I just want the brand advertisers to be a little more, open to the idea of exploring, rather than just saying pre-roll chala do, ad chala do, iska package bana do. I'm saying open your minds a little. OTT platforms will really open their arms in doing what we can for you. We're all here to work together.
Amazing to see so much passion where, we can try and create some kind of blends. Like she said, it's touch and go. It's not always possible to create these kind of campaigns, but if brands are open, I'm sure something can work out. Moving on these lines itself, let's talk about content innovations in the space. From me personally, I've seen like the 5G rollout will lead to a lot of sports streaming. I'm sure everyone will agree to that. 5G will also lead to VR streaming. Saket can elaborate on that later. And how innovations in terms of VR is used for interactive content, commerce, all of that. Subscription figures will lead to new and innovative models as users might get a little shaky on having to subscribe to multiple apps. So let's see where that goes. Maybe shorter theatrical windows for films and how soon they appear on OTT. What are the innovations that you guys see in this space? Because for me, I've also seen that localization and regionalization creates, it's just the numbers explode with that. Like some of our Haryanvi content did extremely well for us. So what do you guys think in terms of innovation? What are the next steps?
Should I go first?
Please, sir.
Okay. So I think I just want to sort of actually build on what Sai and I think Divya was saying. So I think there are 2 or 3 things that are happening, and I'll get to the innovation bit, Pinakin. One is that the buying ecosystem is getting more and more sophisticated, right? So you have the whole rise of programmatic buying. And at the same time, you also have with connected TV, and Sai has referred to it a couple of times. What you now have is a blend of where you can get reach and impact top of funnel in the marketing funnel, but you also start to get outcomes and objectives as you go down, right? So as the buying ecosystem becomes more digitized and sort of programmatic, we will see a shift in mindsets of marketers to outcomes, right? So this hope and pray strategy will obviously go away. That's really the big fundamental shift that's occurring. Obviously, we've been very fortunate that we've been able to deliver such outcomes, and we do see business from, and Sai, thank you for your business, and we hope you continue to work with us. I think the other thing which I didn't refer to, and I think has been equally important, right, has been the rise of brands on an always-on basis, right? So brands have started to understand that they can't get in and get out, campaign aaya, bada ad nikala ya, TVC nikala, and then we're done, right? Or a digital campaign. You have to build a persona which exists with consumers, right? And it's in that shift in their thinking that I think what Divya was saying is also relevant, which is that, hey, you don't always buy horses for courses. There could be great opportunities where you have a brand story which fits with a great script or a story, right? To Prasoon's original point, that not all shows lend themselves to it. I think he spoke of Narcos not being the best fit, but perhaps a new show is. So I think what I would say, Pinakin, if I were to summarize, is that at one level, you're seeing huge outcome orientation in marketers, right? They want results. They want to know who they target, what they did for it, right? At the same time, you also see opportunity which is non-conventional, where it's aligning with a sort of a product integration to Divya and Prasoon's point. I think both are occurring at the same time. I think what is at the next step, we are seeing it with Spark AR, right? So we have a AR building platform. We've already, India is one of the fastest growing markets in terms of adoption on AR, both on the consumer side in terms of filters and things, but also by brands. We're increasingly finding brands asking us that question, adding that layer in their campaigns. Now, today it's an innovation and it seems like a nice thing to do, perhaps in some marketing rooms. But I think it's only a matter of time before it becomes mainstream, right? Most things that today are mainstream began as innovations. So that's a life cycle to that. So I would say AR is definitely a big frontier. We're already seeing that action. I would say VR also is, and we are famously Meta now. But I think there is a consumer response required as devices proliferate, as the Meta experience becomes more easy. We will see a change in software, content, and buying as well. But I think that's perhaps a little further away. To my mind, AR and always on brands behaving as influencers themselves and engaging influencers across the board, not just the biggest movie star, I think those are big shifts in addition to fundamentally a performance-driven and outcome-driven mindset, which I think was alluding to. I think these are the fundamental shifts from my point of view.
I'd like to add a couple of things to what Saket just said. While we know that programmatic is the thing happening, but in the OTT space, there are multiple challenges, at a ground level, which is not really getting addressed because, the technology stack is not matured yet. So this year and the years in future are going to be time when measurability will become very critical. Why is it that people are going to Facebook and Google? Because ROI is predictable, scalable, and we can talk about a lot of things in a measured manner with our clients. What's happening in the OTT space is the inventory is vast, but a lot of things are not really getting tracked. What are we buying? We're buying just RODP. Look at basic things that happens on a video viewing in television. When our clients ask us that, they shouldn't be in one break, you shouldn't be playing 5 spots, right? Go to AVOD, you will see certainly that, some of the ads are running back to back, so a very difficult experience for the audiences and for the agencies to really, monitor it and then tell the details and give the numbers to the clients. So there are these challenges which need to get fixed, and that will happen only with artificial intelligence and, automation and things like that. Only once all these come together, it will become as scalable as a Facebook and Google. It's very critical.
I'll add to you what you're saying, Sujata. So I think artificial intelligence is way away. I mean, first you need to have machine learning, you need to have width and depth of data for the machine learning. Then comes the contextual learning on top of it. And then comes the artificial intelligence, right? Artificial intelligence in forms of chatbots is much bastardized and, should not be assumed as artificial intelligence. That's a very, very basic way of functioning. What I personally feel is that the award part that you're talking about, that probably you had a bad experience. What I have seen, and I must name a platform that I really admire for doing award advertising well, which is Hotstar. I really, really admire the way they have set up their ad ops, the way that they run it. I think the key lies in automation. The key lies in ensuring that your ad ops are so perfect that you don't go through this bad user experience that you went through, that you're mentioning, right? I really don't know which OTT platform gave you that experience.
It is the same platform you're mentioning about. Actually, and here might come back,
See, it depends on what is and while I'm not employed with them and neither am I looking for a job over there, I think they have done a spectacular work in setting it up right. I personally
definitely.
That's how I have seen it happen. But I think that's a point I'm sure you must have mentioned to them. So like I said, the key lies in automation, but OTT platforms for future in terms of innovations, I think, first of all, unique narratives content that is going to continue, because without that and without the creation of the buzz around the unique narratives and content, neither agencies like you are going to be interested in us, nor clients like Saya are going to be interested in us. So that is critical. That has to keep happening, right? Over and above that, I think OTT, since tech and digital ecosystem has become big now. There's a war happening out there over peoples and processes. That's the next step that OTT platforms are going to take and going to absolutely try and earn a Sigma belt on it. The third thing, which I think, which is really, really going to happen is, like Saket rightly said, Facebook is now called Meta. People are going all gung-ho about metaverse and virtual reality and what is it that we can do over there. I mean, I can't disclose, but we are working on various things right now which is going to be a huge show, and how we can, do virtual reality around it, and how we can create an immersive experience, and how then brands can co-function and work with us on the same. That is definitely the future. But I still strongly feel that OTT platforms will continue investing and innovating heavily on unique narrative, because without that, you are not going to come to us. Without that, there's no advertising happening.
Yeah. Now, if I can add, sorry, Prasoon, go ahead. Go ahead, please.
No, so as a content creator, I just want to sort of add, while we are all figuring as platform, as advertisers and as agencies, trying to figure out ways to sort of stabilize new mediums and innovations where audience can watch. I think the heart of it lies the content, right? So we need to create good content for all these mediums for audience to come and watch that content, where you can advertise and sort of do all those things. As a content creators, we are a studio who just don't make game drama series. We want to get into all form of content. So what struggle we see a clear business model for us as content creators with SWOT platforms or with TV or in movies, right? What currently we're struggling with, if you want to create content for brands, which is of the quality which audience expect, because audience is watching it for the content, not for the brands. And if you want to create content for say AR and VR, we are currently struggling to see a viable business model for us to do it. So I think it is also really important for all of us to think, how we as content creators are able to stabilize and companies, not individuals. So of course, the individuals like on YouTube are sort of flourishing and succeeding. But as we keep thinking and keep talking about how we as a company are able to create a viable model for branded content, for AR, VR, and new technologies coming in, and we're very open to make content for those as well.
Awesome. Okay, keeping in mind innovations, what are let's talk about what might ail this sector. What could be the negatives? What are things that we could change? I think this is more for Sujata and Sai, and I think she kind of covered how she wants better interface and better reporting. What else could there be? Like, I mean, for Prasoon, is there enough awareness among platforms to back a project which can make something really, maybe the next Narcos comes out of India, or maybe the next brand case study comes out of here? How does this work?
Well, I think there's a lot of awareness on platform. In fact, I believe that the platforms are the ones who are pushing for global stories to come out from different parts. Like if you see, when you see a big hoarding of Game of Thrones or Money Heist across the country, you know that platforms are putting out a sort of a foreign language content and promoting in that manner. And also when we talk to these platforms, everyone is sort of looking for ideas where they can monetize. Everyone in their head are thinking, of course, the large part of subscription will come from the base territory, which is India, for the content we create in India. But everyone is looking and hoping that this content will travel across territories. So yeah, I mean, there's a great awareness among the platforms. Now, as the sort of monies are going up in the market, we see that the quality of content is going up. We see Scam 1992 becoming one of the global top 10 shows and being watched and sort of acclaimed across the world. So that is happening, and I think it will continue growing. And we are winning Emmys. We are getting nominated for Emmys. I think this trend will continue, and we'll keep building on it.
Yeah, if I can just
always pulls.
Go ahead, Sujata.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was just adding to him. Like good content always pulls a lot of audiences. Look at India. What has happened? People are not only watching English, Hindi, Vernaks, but they've also started watching Korean, Japanese, and those languages. And amongst the Gen Z, Korean and Japanese are like so popular. We can't even imagine, to an extent that we have television channels like the Q and Shamaru getting Korean content so that the stacks are viewed by people. So good content definitely pulls a lot of audiences, and advertising will follow.
Yeah. No, if I can just add, Pinakin, to your question on challenges, and I think what Prasoon and Sujata are saying is spot on. Again, we see a lot of this kind of content on our platforms, and we see audiences globally consuming it, right? Some of the, famously, I mean, India's CPM levels are perhaps much lower than the Western markets. You would see that. And we see a lot of creators making hundreds and thousands of dollars, and also broadcast companies, studios, who are putting some of this content out because you have an audience on Facebook and Instagram globally, right? And it's getting monetized, and monetized very well. So I think the point on stories traveling globally can't be better made. I think Scam, to my mind, is our Squid Game. And you've seen the response Squid Game got in India. So I think it's happening both ways, perhaps lesser so from India to the world, but I think it's early stages, but that's going to happen too. right? But Korean dramas have famously traveled very well in any case. I think if I were to focus on challenges, Pinakin, I think there are two things which, one is what I think Divya was referring to in some manner. Differentiation is going to be a challenge, right? I see the OTT universe today almost like where broadcasting was, when in the late 90s, early 2000s, everybody was doing the same thing. Everyone's trying to scream out or almost outshout the other platform. But over time, you have nuances. So you don't have a GC channel, you have English comedy entertainment and youth Hindi. And, you start seeing channels develop on certain specific subgenres or sub-audiences. I think that's going to happen with OTTs. I was reading somewhere that there is one of the best performing AVOD OTTs globally is one that focuses only on horror, right? And they have a huge loyal base. So I think from being everything to everyone, the mega OTT platforms, you might start seeing niche OTT platforms which are able to charge, build a SWOT model which is profitable, and it's against going to a core user, right? And you deliver the same service again and again, but do so well, and then add an ad layer or an ad stack on top. So I think that's one thing that's going to be a challenge. How do you differentiate? And that's why you see super aggregators, right? We've also seen that structure in the market where you have mega OTTs coming in offering other OTTs. So it's almost like, so I think that will be the number one challenge. The other thing that's going to happen is micropayments, right? So if you look at the idea, it's much harder to own a user for a 6-month or a 1-year subscription as it is to your question, can you sell an article? Can I sell a show? Can I sell an episode? And I think what's happening with the payment stack changing, with the rise of fintech and UPI, of course, that the consumer threshold or the barrier to say, okay, let me pay 10 rupees for this and see how I feel, as opposed to committing to $250 for a month. I think that shift is also going to occur. So I think the point about being different and having content as your core value prop can't be better made. But I think the challenge will be how do you maintain that consistently and how are you available at different price points and different devices. I think if the right IP owners will crack that magic sort of portion, if you like. And we see that, right? Again, a lot of conventional logic would suggest, why should you have your video on Instagram and Facebook? Because it may conflict, but actually the best OTT platforms have a huge video strategy on Facebook because they realize that it's a funnel creator, right? So I think you have to be savvy about thinking about the new environment. We are seeing it with some players.
Awesome. So, keeping this in mind, I don't think we have too much time left, but what kind of content or what kind of genres would we expect the most growth from? Like Saket mentioned, there's horror. Divya, any insights on what kind of genres might actually start performing better in the coming year?
So I think from an industry perspective, what we've seen is that thrillers and dramas have worked really, really well across, right? And that data is available in the open industry for everybody to see and feel. Comedy and other genres still have their audience, but it's still more niche. I think what's going to really, really explode is the youth genre, because youth of this country are unfortunately extremely underserved, right? There's nothing happening other than probably a MTV, and a couple of English channels on TV that are serving them. So I think youth catering platforms, entertainment in terms of could be a mix of music, could be a mix of audio, those are the ones that are really, really going to explode as a genre. For us at Alt, we are going to continue doing inclusive and individual tracks both parallelly, for the simple reason that during pandemic we've seen the CTV sales going up year on year by 25%, which means families are coming together and watching shows together. So it makes huge amount of sense for us to launch a lot of family-oriented shows, thrillers that families can watch together. But then again, let's not forget that the reason why OTT happened was because consumers were looking to watch shows when they want, wherever they want, whatever they want. Right? So that individualism is continuing, especially in the country of India, which is largely a mobile economy, is not going anywhere. That is going to continue, and we at Alt will continue working on parallel tracks.
Interesting. So, I've just received a Sharechat chat room question of the day, which is, how can brands or content creators leverage live audio chat rooms for fan engagement? Since we were talking about youth, I think a lot of younger people have started engaging with this medium. What do you guys think?
So I can take Sorry. Yeah,
go ahead.
No, the simple ways on the live sessions, normally what we've seen is, brand integrations within the show works extremely well. I have seen Gen Z, asking for products which they've seen some YouTuber chatting and using while they are, kind of talking. So it has to be a subtle brand integration and content extension. If the same influencer who's there live chatting goes and, uses a certain product and talks about it later, things like that. So it's more to do with integrations within the chat and not, the L bands and, all those pushbacks and all, not like that, but very subtle integrations that works very well.
So the issue is, I don't know how we could do subtle integrations in an audio chat room. So are there any pointers that you can come up with?
Yeah, I mean, you could always have like how we do it in the radio, the jockey talks about it, right? So while chatting, they could just use the brand name. We have RJs talking about every day. So in an audio chat room, also a subtle mention could happen, right? And in a conversation, which is like a normal statement.
Interesting. So not in your face, but just by
not in your face. Yeah.
Okay, got it.
So, but again, I think the person who asked the question, it's a deep, specific question. But if the idea is, do brands monetize well on live environments? The answer is a big yes. I mean, we, for example, we have a product called Facebook Stars, where in a live stream, you can gift, a star to the creator or the influencer.
Right.
And that sort of creates engagement. We have a product called Facebook Online Events, where you can literally do a virtual concert, right? We've seen a huge amount of donations on Facebook Live during COVID. We did this I for India concert, where $500,000 was raised. So live works. Consumers are loving it. We see great evidence of that. And live commerce will also be a big opportunity, to Sujata's point. And I think audio is nothing but a format change, right? When consumers like video or audio, it's just a format change. But the idea is to be in the moment and interact. So I think that opportunity is, we are seeing a lot of growth, at least on our platforms. And I think there are ways of subtly weaving it in. I think Sujata was spot on.
Yeah. I think we'll figure it out as the year progresses. Guys, I think we're running out of time. Thank you so much, Sai. Thank you, Sujata. Thank you, Saket. Thank you, Divya. Thank you, Prasoon. Thank you, IWM, for doing this. That's about it, I guess.
Thank you to everyone.
Thank you, Pinakin. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Stay safe. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, everyone, for that absolutely wonderful and lovely and very interactive conversation.